Welcome, I'm JR with Outlaw Crappie and Walleye Poles. I'm out fishing today with Dean Smith from Joplin, Missouri. We've been fishing a while this morning, and Dean says I was catching all the fish, and one of the reasons I told him is because I was using an Outlaw Crappie and Walleye pole. And I said, Dean, you're gonna need one of these. And he said, well, I wanna see one. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna do a demo on this rod, and I'm going to show you just exactly why Outlaw is different. It is unbelievably tough, extremely durable, extremely lightweight, so you can fish with a long rod all day long. But the main thing is the sensitivity. You're not giving up your sensitivity to get backbone with an Outlaw rod. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in Dean's hand, and I'm going to teach him how to even be a better fisherman while I'm demoing my rod. I want you to move all your fingers right up here in front of this reel seat, just like that. Roll that index knuckle until it's right on top. Just kind of, there you go. Now, do you notice a difference in your balance?
Oh, yes.
It's extremely important when you're using a long rod, but I've got to where I do that with any rod that I use. The first thing I do is my hand goes right up there on that front part of that reel seat, in front of the reel seat, and then take your index finger right here and relax it on that rod blank. Okay? Now, we're cheating today because what you've got an IM8 graphite, pure graphite rod from some of the finest carbon fiber in the world. We get our carbon fiber straight out of Japan. That's where you get the best carbon fiber in the world. And what we do is we put this together. We accidentally years ago came across a blending process that put this graphite together and kept it extremely lightweight and extremely sensitive. But yet now what's important about this is you need strength. A couple of tournament fishermen actually designed this rod in the beginning because they were tired of buying their $200 rods and going out there and trying to get those heavy crappie up out of the brush pile and breaking their rod tips. Yeah. Because that is one thing over the years that has been unbelievably tough to get a good, lightweight, sensitive rod and not break your tips. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to show you just exactly how sensitive this rod is, okay? Dean, if you would back up there on the front of the boat for me just a little bit, maybe right in front of your butt seat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you by putting your finger on this rod blank, you're going to intercept all that sensitivity before it has time to filter out in this handle. That's why you see a lot of rods today that have through the blank handles to where you're actually feeling that blank back here in your handle. You've probably seen them or you may own some. Yeah. But if you'll do this right here, you don't have to worry about what's going on back there because you're going to intercept it. And I'm just going to lightly brush this as I go, and you're going to feel it in that finger. You feel that? Yeah. Now, what's unbelievable that most people don't believe unless I show them is when I get out to the end of this 10-foot rod, you're actually going to feel that better than when I started close to your finger. And that's something that you can't tell people and they believe. They have to see it. So I'm going to just lightly brush this as I go, and you're probably going to notice that it even feels better when I get out here. Yeah. This graphite blend actually will magnify the sensitivity, not just transmit it, it will actually magnify it. That's why people that use Outlaw, tournament fishermen that use Outlaw, absolutely love our graphite blend. Now, the one thing that we talk about when we talk about graphite rods is the expense. They can be very expensive. There's a lot of rods out there today that it's easy to buy a 10-foot, extremely high quality graphite rod that may cost you $250, $300. But what we've done with our blending process, and we use the high quality graphite, we use a process to blend that together. We use really good components to keep all that sensitivity and all that strength. So what I'm going to show Dean now is just exactly where we run onto problems with graphite rods. Dean, if you would, he's trying to get the boat from blowing into the bank. Stand there and hold that rod just like you're fishing, and I'm going to give you a scenario of what happens to people sometimes with their graphite rods and why they break them. Okay, let's say if you'll give me a little bit of slack on that and pull that right here over the boat. Daniel, you may have to back up just a little for this. I've shown you how sensitive that rod was by rubbing on it, okay? That's not important to you when you're fishing, is it?
Yeah. Well,
not really, not this part, because the fish isn't going to swim down the rod, okay? What you want to feel is what's going on down here. Now, Dean, what are you doing most of the time when you're crappie fishing? You're fishing in some type of structure? Yes. Round stumps, brush piles, standing timber. So you don't see what's going on down there. You've got to feel it, right? Yes. Okay, you just look up and don't be looking, but you just work that jig slowly, just like you're in a brush pile, and just raise it until you make contact. Slow raising. Just keep raising it up until you make contact. with something, fish or, oh, that was solid, was it? Could you tell that was solid?
Sure.
Now go on again and come through that limb. Keep going. Well, if there's another solid one, right? Okay, now just hold it right there. You come out of that. That's a lot of times when that fish is going to bite. He's going to come up from underneath and just raise up on that jig or from the side. And you want to be able to feel the difference. Can you feel the difference?
Yes.
What's that going to do for you? You're going to catch more fish.
More fish.
You're going to lose less jigs because you're not going to be setting that hook on that
I'm
timber.
very surprised at how I can feel that.
It's extremely sensitive.
I can feel
Okay,
it.
now here's the part that we don't want you to give up. Okay, your pocketbook, because you can spend a lot of money on a good graphite rod. Okay, we want to keep it affordable for the average fisherman. All right, we don't want you to give up weight. You can't fish all day with a 10, 11, 12 foot rod with not getting some arm and shoulder fatigue. Okay, how heavy is that rod?
It's very light.
It's balanced for you. Okay, but here's what you've always had to give up to get that. Say you spent 250 bucks. First thing you do, you go out, you put your reel on, you forget to check the drag, and the first thing you hook is a big bass or a catfish and he runs into the boat with you. What happens to your rod tip?
Well, you break it.
Gonna break it. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Now I do have a hook on this, so don't do it too hard to me, but set the hook. You just rear up on him like you've got a fish on. Okay, you feel him fighting? Keep your rod tip up because he's running under the boat with you. What's gonna happen to your rod tip with an outlaw? Can you see that bend? Swing it out that way just a little. Now you don't have to worry so much about breaking a rod and getting that fish in the boat.
No.
You can take that crappie with the way you're holding your rod right there, just lift him right in the boat. Leave the line out the length of your rod, swing him right over the boat. And that's the main difference in an outlaw and a lot of your other crappie rods on the market today. We are extremely tough.
When you just bump that jig with the side of your hand, I felt it.
That's what I was telling you this morning when we were in that school of crappie, that I was feeling those light bites.
Yes.
You were probably
and I
getting
wasn't.
bites. You were probably getting bites.
And that's always been my problem with jig fishing.
But if you'll do this with an outlaw,
Yeah.
whatever rod you use, if you will rest your index finger right there on that plank, you're going to intercept it. Even if it's a hickory stick, you're going to intercept whatever's coming through there.
Yeah.
And when he's coming through an outlaw, you're getting it all magnified.
I'm very impressed with the sensitivity. Can you tell me any more about the reel itself?
That little reel I've got on here, that is actually one that I had a gentleman design for me. I spend I'm out on the lake 300 days a year because I guide full time besides having a rod company. I was buying $140, $150 reels, and they weren't lasting me a year, you know, being out in the elements all the time and everybody using them. So I had the opportunity to talk to a gentleman that had built reels several years ago, and he come up with this plan for me, and we sat down and we talked about what I wanted in a reel. He built this little reel for me, and what it is it's a 6-bearing reel. It's called the Outlaw Pro 6. It's a 6-bearing reel. It's sealed up good and tight. It is manufactured to really tight tolerances so that I want it to last 2 years in my guideboat. If I'm using it 150 days a year, I want it to last me 2 years. I've been using one of them now for 2 years and it's still going, and I haven't cleaned it, I haven't re-oiled it or anything, and I'm still using it. So I'm pretty fond of them. They're not a real expensive reel. They've got internal components equivalent to a lot of $150 reels on the market. But I can retail that little reel right there for $40. And it has been a good one for me. Like I say, I'm a couple of years into them. We've got a lot of them out there. People are using them so far. They're loving them. They're a little tight. They're really tight when you first start using them because of the way I had them manufactured. They've also got a compression bail spring in them instead of just a little flat clip spring. I mean, it's like a regular spring. It's just got a little bit of compression to it. And if they ever would get a little bit weak, which you can tell, they're really tight.
Yes.
You can take that little bail spring out and stretch it a little bit and put it back in.
Oh, really?
So I'm really happy to be able to offer those in the $40 range.
That's a very good price.
Now, Dean, with a 10-foot rod, which is what I've shown you today, most of the time you're going to use it for vertical jigging, okay? But these rods also, let's say you see something chasing shad out there, or there's a stump out there that you want to get to. These rods are unbelievably easy to cast because of the extra large guides that we put on them. So if you want to, just take that, open your bail, and just give it a little side sling, just like you're seeing something out there. You see how easy that was to go out?
Oh, yeah.
And we've got very little line on that reel because we're using it as a demo. But I also make an 8-footer, Dean, that the walleye fishermen started asking me when they fish riprap and stuff below dams. They started asking me, would you design me a 8 or a 9-foot rod that I can throw a really light jig and get it way out there in the current off of that riprap? So I designed an 8-foot 2-inch that will cast unbelievably a 16-ounce jig. The 10-footers will too, but you've got a lot more length there to do that. But see how easy it is to flip out there?
Oh, yeah.
And we don't even have much line on that one. Well, Dean, what we've done here in just a few seconds is I've shown you the main difference between an Outlaw Crappie and Walleye pole than a lot of other rods on the market. You're looking at one you can spend for, let's take a 10-footer. You can spend 50 bucks, $50 to $55 on an 8 to 10 foot in our Black Classic, which is the same rod, except that it's an IM7 graphite and it's in the black matte finish. Or you can upgrade just for another $20. You can get a camo rod, and this camo, and I'll tell you about this camouflage. Most camouflage rods, you see rods or guns and they've got a camo finish on them. They have put that on with vinyl or with paint. This is actually a specially dyed graphite cloth. That camo is an extra graphite wrap. It's not paint, it's not vinyl, it is pure graphite. So that increases your sensitivity and your strength in a camo, and you can get that for an extra $20. But you can get a 10-foot Outlaw crappie pole for $55 to $75, and you never pay for warranty unless if you break a rod tip, I can sell you that rod tip if you need a replacement for 20 bucks. And that way, if you don't break it, you never have to pay for a warranty.
I just gave $55 for a crappie rod yesterday, and I fished with it this morning, and I guarantee you this is twice the rod.
Don't you wish you'd have talked to me first?
Yes, I do.
But what you've got here then is you've got a rod that is inexpensive, extremely durable, extremely tough, extremely sensitive, extremely lightweight. What more can you want? Now, Dean, give me your honest opinion on what you've seen here today.
I'm very impressed with the sensitivity of the rod and the real smooth action to it. Really impressed with it. Now I'm ready to go take it out and see if I can outfish it this afternoon.
You want to try it this afternoon?
Sure.
All right. We'll give it a try, and what we're going to do then is thank you, Dean, for helping us and being my guinea pig to give you this demo. But we're going to go out and catch a fish now, and let's just see what'll happen. See how tough that rod is? Just swing him right to you. That's a nice black.
Yes, it is. Might be able to outfish you now. Great.
Outlaw Crappie and Walleye poles. Come catch a crappie with us.